Then came the big fire, which, of course, you have heard about. The house, the stables, everything was burned, under circumstances that pointed strongly to an incendiary. For the misfortune happened the day after the quarterly insurance was due, and the premiums sent in by my father were strangely delayed by his messenger, so that they arrived too late. My father was utterly at a loss to know where to get the money to rebuild with. Then my mother suggested that he try to borrow from a man who was her friend in her youth, a brick manufacturer in the area. My father made the loan, but he was not allowed to pay any interest, which surprised him. Then the house was rebuilt. Do you know who burned the house? My mother. Do you know who the brick manufacturer was? My mother's lover. Do you know whose money it was? My mother's. There was no contract. She had some money which she had not wished to have in my father's keeping, so she had entrusted it to her friend's care. All this came to my father's attention. He couldn't proceed against him, couldn't pay his wife's friend, and couldn't prove that it was his wife's money. That was my mother's revenge for his taking the reins of the establishment into his own hands. At that time, he was ready to shoot himself. Gossip had it that he tried and failed. Well, he lived it down, and my mother paid full penalty for her misdeed. Those were 5 terrible years for me, as you can fancy. I sympathized with my father, but I took my mother's part, for I did not know the true circumstances. Through her, I learned to distrust and hate men, and I swore to her never to be a man's slave.